Hey guys, it's Carleigh. Welcome back to Mostly Dating, a First Rounds on Media production. First Rounds on Me is a dating app that's designed to get you off your phone and on a date in real life. Head to the link in our show notes to learn more and get your first month free with the code Mostly Dating. Today we have a guest I'm so excited for. We have Sarafiena Watkins. You might know her from this season of The Bachelor, and I am so excited to get into it. So welcome, Sarafiena.
Yay, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I was actually just talking with a friend about it. You're the first person I've had from The Bachelor. I've
Oh
had
my
people
goodness.
from like Love is Blind and different dating shows, but I'm excited to have a Bachelor contestant in the house.
Yeah, I feel like we're slightly different from Love is Blind.
Oh yeah,
I
so
think
different.
that is so intense for me, as crazy as it sounds. But yeah, so
Yeah.
props to Love is Blind people.
We're going to get into all of it, but I always like to start by having my guests tell a little bit about themselves. So can you tell everyone where you're from, where you live, and then a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Sarafiena. I currently live in New York City. I'm originally from Greenwich, Connecticut. I moved to New York about 3 years ago. Yeah, I work in New York City. I work in advertising. I've been doing that for about 6 years. So yeah, I've lived a pretty like the typical New York life right after
Yeah.
college.
Yeah, it's funny when I reached out to you, I told you that I used to work in that industry as
Right.
well. So I was like, okay, I have to have her on. We have some overlap there. I have so many questions for you, but I want to take it sort of from the start. So pre-Bachelor, we'll get into all those things, but before that, you're living in New York City. What was your dating life like? Like, were you a relationship person, more of a single, kind of in between?
Yeah, I lived a pretty single life all throughout after college. I dated a guy for a year after college. I was 22 and he was 27 years old. And he got out of a 5 year relationship. And then he started dating me like a week later. So like I
Wow.
was definitely a rebound relationship. I will admit that. He dumped me kind of out of the blue. And then from there, I just kind of had this string of not the healthiest relationships. They would just date these very unavailable, not emotionally intelligent men. And then I took a break for a little bit. I went to therapy. I, like as cheesy as this sounds, and I really worked on myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I obviously applied for The Bachelor just because I felt like I was in a place where I was like, okay, I'm ready to start dating someone because I felt like I was so closed off from people. And there was like times when I would start dating someone and I felt like if they were like pulling back a little bit, I would just immediately cut them off. So it really took me getting to a really healthy place for me to put myself out there and do Bachelor.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of the things that you're saying, just sort of about your dating style and dating history, resonate for me. I feel like I also dated those types of people after having a bad relationship, would date people that were sort of like not available or just not like emotionally on in a situation to be like in a relationship.
Yeah.
And I do think, of course, we'll get into more about the show, but I feel like it came across on screen that you probably have done a lot of work on yourself and you seemed like you were really ready for a relationship.
Thank you. Because, like, it took a really long time for me to get to that place. And I think I had to grow as a person and become mature before I really dove into a relationship and wanted something committed. So, again, I took like a very, very long break before realizing that this is something that I wanted to do.
Yeah. Were you like, you were mindfully saying, like, I'm taking a break, or would you kind of like go on the apps and go out on a few dates here and there?
So I had the apps like always downloaded, but I never really invested in them. I've been on one or two Hinge dates, but I never really found success from it. And I know there's so much success. Like I have friends who got married from meeting a guy on Hinge or Bumble, but it just never worked for me. And I think it was because dating apps are like kind of like shopping. It's like you see a dress and you're like, I really like that because like that is typically my style. And you don't really get to see the person or like see their personality, I mean. So I never really thought dating apps worked for me because like I was just choosing what I was accustomed to and that just wouldn't work out for me. I needed an environment where I was like actually meeting people and talking to them and being like, this is not the person I typically
Mm.
go for, but this is the personality that I think I need.
Yeah. Wait, that's such a good analogy for dating apps. I feel like I've never heard it put that way, but like, Yeah, you don't actually get to see how these people fit your life. It's like I have carts on every single shopping
Yeah,
platform that I don't actually try on.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really funny. So when you then during that time when you were working on yourself and going to therapy, did you have specific things? Like I just asked this only because I get so many questions about people who are like curious about starting therapy. Did you have specific things going into it that you were like, I need to work on these things, or did you work with a therapist that was good at like asking a lot of questions and things like that?
Um, so there were specific things that I worked on. It was, you know how there's like you have like three attachment styles. I very much had anxious attachment.
Mm,
So it was like that pull away. Like if I felt like, he hadn't texted me in 2 or 3 days, like I was like, okay, he absolutely does not like me. And sometimes that is the case. Like if you don't see consistency in a person, that definitely means that they probably are not as interested in you. But also it was like, maybe I should reach out because guys are my friend and I were talking about this last night. Guys also like it when women also reach out to them and like are sometimes a little bit more aggressive because like they sometimes get intimidated or afraid. Like at the end of the day, they are human beings as well. But then also it was like, this guy could also be busy or going through things because there are times when like I don't answer people because like I'm going through a really stressful
right.
time. So it's like you also have to think about it that way. So it's really taking like, am I actually anxious about this relationship because he's not a good person, or am I pulling away because I'm just afraid of like getting hurt? So
Yeah.
that was one thing that I really, really worked on in therapy and just like really shifting my mindset.
And that definitely takes work and it takes time of like actually realizing that. It's like, especially when
Yeah.
you hear like if he wanted to, he would, and all of those advice things out there, it's like, no, I actually love talking to my boyfriend about this type of thing because he's like, he'll say stuff like that. He's like, no, my friends actually like when a girl pursues them a little bit too. And it's not just like
Yeah.
them constantly chasing. And sometimes you are busy and you can't text back right away. And there's so many nuances to it.
Yeah, no, that's something I really learned. I was like, you will know exactly when a guy's not interested versus when it's just like maybe you need to pursue a little bit as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so then fast forward, you said you applied for the show. So you actually submitted yourself. It wasn't like somebody else sending you in. I know that.
No, I
Okay.
submitted myself. I know a lot of girls get like recruited or like that, like their friend submits them. Like I fully did this
Wait,
myself.
that's so cool. So had you always watched the
Yeah.
show?
Yeah, I've been watching the show since Sean Lowe was my first season. I was in high school. And then I like did the typical bachelor watch parties in college. And then a little bit after, like I would do bachelor Mondays. And then I stopped for a little bit, like on and off. And then I think the last real season that I watched was Peter Weber's. And then it was like kind of like sporadic. Um, and then I watched Jen's because I was applying for the show. So yeah, it was like kind of like this on and off for a bit. But I've always been like a very big fan.
Yeah, so you were applying before you knew who it was?
Yes, I applied in April. I applied right after Joey's season aired because I was like, well, it looks great. Like this worked out for them. And then I was like, I'm turning 30 this year. So I was
Mm.
like, you know what? It's like a bucket list. Like I might as well just go for it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. If it does, like that would just be a cool experience.
Yeah, I love that it's a show that you watched literally in high school and then you ended up going on
Yeah.
it. That's
It's
so
insane.
cool.
It's insane to think about it that way. Like being in the Bachelor Mansion after watching it for so many years is like the most surreal thing. It's really crazy.
Yeah, and as much as you can share, what is the whole process like once you apply and like from then until you actually go on the show?
So I did an application. I say it was like a bus ride, 15 minutes. Like I was going from my apartment to my job, just like filling out like, basic information, sending a couple pictures. And then I got a phone call that night.
Oh, wow.
And then interviews like sporadic throughout the months, and then you don't hear for a little bit, and then it's like you do blood work and then you don't hear for a little bit, and then you just do the processes. It's like very large gaps. And then I found out a week before I was going to leave that I was going to be on the show. So I found out a Friday night and then left the next Saturday morning.
Oh my God, that's
Mhm.
crazy. And could you
Yeah,
tell
so
people?
I mean, I told like a few of my friends, like
Yeah.
I was like thinking about it, and then obviously like my mom, and then I gave my job like a heads up because like I could not tell them a week before like that I'm going on the show, so like they knew. It was like very like close people to me that were in the loop about it.
Yeah, how did the work part of it work? Could you just take that time off?
Yeah, so like my boss was really supportive of it, and I had been working there for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And it was actually during a really downtime on the account. So it was kind of just like, I got everything set up for my team, and then I took like 6 weeks off, and then I came back right at the peak of things. So it just was like a very perfect storm of the way everything happened.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so at that point, though, when you're agreeing to go in a week, you knew who the Bachelor was, right?
Yeah, I knew it was Grant. I believe in August is when he got announced. So like as I was still going through the process, I knew exactly who was going to be going into it, which made me more excited.
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't be able to go into it if I had no idea who it was going to be.
No, absolutely not. I think I don't know how it usually works for other seasons, but like that just could not work for me. I'd have so much anxiety just like
Yeah.
stepping out of the limo and being like, who is it?
Yeah, who am I going to see?
Yeah, no, insane. But it worked out for me.
Do you have a type that you would usually go after in terms of either looks or personality and things like that?
Personality, for sure. I feel like I was always going for like the life of the party, outgoing
Mm.
guy, like someone that was just like very outgoing because believe it or not, I'm slightly introverted. I don't really put myself out. I can be very quiet at first, until I get to know you. So I always wanted someone that like brought that out of me. And then I realized like that is not the kind of guy I need. It's just what I want. I feel like I need someone a little bit more caring and attentive and like doesn't need to like bounce around and talk to every single person at that party. Like that's just not what I needed in my life.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's also like a you live and you learn kind of thing. Like you date enough
Yeah.
of those types of people and then you're like, okay, that's not actually what I need.
I know. I also feel like the outgoing type is like the stereotypical New York guy.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so there were I'm thinking back now to the all the people who were on this season. There were a couple of people from New York, right?
Yeah, there's actually it was like the most girls from New York that I think
Wow.
there has ever been, which was crazy to see.
Yeah. Wait, okay, so you're getting ready to go on the show. You leave in a week. What do you like pack? Like, do you have to buy dresses for all these rose ceremonies?
Yeah. So again, I kind of had a feeling I was going. I never got confirmation. So like I would see a sale and I'd be like, okay, like I'll
Mm.
get this. If I have a wedding, like it's fine. I'll put it away. And then that Saturday I found out I went to Bloomingdale's with my friend and we just like bought a bunch of dresses. I went to Alice and Olivia. Like I just like went to all these shops and just picked out dresses. I bought 12 of them.
Wow.
And then I had clothes just,
Yeah.
I have an insane shopping problem, so I was like fine on like the regular clothes. It was really the dresses that I invested the most in, and then I went to Sephora and bought like two of everything.
Yeah. Oh
So
my God, that's true. You have to get all the makeup and everything.
yeah, people don't realize the makeup is like also the thing that you have to make sure you stock up on because if you run out, like that's it.
Wow. And you do your own hair and makeup and everything the whole time, right?
Yeah, hair and makeup, and then again, I kind of knew, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna just like get my extensions before,
Yeah.
like had a hair appointment already ready, and then I found out literally I had my appointment to do my hair that morning, and then I got home and then I got the call, so it was like slight manifestation.
Yeah, yeah. You're just doing it as if you're going to be on the show.
Yeah,
Okay, so then you get there. How long is it after you actually get to the Bachelor Mansion until like night one of meeting Grant and everything?
it was about 4 days, and then
Okay.
you do like promo, like all those promo photos that you see, and then like you do like those like cringy videos where it's like dog, cat, or dog, and like
Yeah.
it's like those little promo videos. And then you kind of meet with your producer, and like they get to know you, and then you talk about like your entrance before you get out of the limo. So it's like all those. It's 4 days to kind of just like relax. But you do get a little stir crazy, I will admit. Like
Yeah.
I was like not doing well by myself for a while, but I made it through.
Yeah, I can imagine you would get stir crazy. And you mentioned you're
Yeah,
kind of an introvert, but on you were great on camera. Like, did it take a
thank
little while
you.
to get used to?
I think I work best around people like-minded people and friends. So it's like if I got along with so many of the girls and they made me feel so comfortable, like Bailey is one of my really good friends and she's just so hilarious and just brings stuff out of me and like she makes me laugh, she makes me feel comfortable. So I think just like having people around really made it seem like, okay, there's not really cameras. It's kind of just like I'm just like hanging out with my friends who's like also dating the same guy as me.
That part of it we're definitely going to get into because it's so weird. It's so
It's
crazy.
so weird now thinking about it. It's weird thinking about it now.
Yeah. Well, so what were your initial impressions of the other women? Could you kind of tell like, oh, this person might cause drama. These people are going to be my friends. What was that like?
I gravitated to a bunch of girls the first night, and then like as the process gone on and like I started talking to more of the girls, like I found commonality in a lot of them. So like I would say like I was friends with like the majority of the girls in the house, and like, it's like friends in real life. Like you have friends for different purposes.
Right.
So I had my friend that I would like confide in and like kind of like be more emotional with, and like my friend that like was a little bit more of like, we would laugh together. And, as you go on group dates, you also find like different people who you connect with, because the first group date, we were split up into groups of 10, and I think it was like 8 or something.
Mm.
And I didn't meet the other girls on the group date the second day. So I bonded with the 10 girls that I was on the group date with first. And then the next week I found new friends, and then like people go home, and it's just like it's ever changing. But like I still talk to girls that like went home night one.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So, and it's funny because now I'm thinking back to the beginning of the season. I'm trying to remember like what all the dates were. But of course,
Mhm.
there's like the night where you all meet him and you all have your entrance. Remind me, what was your entrance? What did you do when you came in?
I had a giant cut out of his head.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah. And I feel like
Yeah.
he loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was go big or go home kind of thing.
Yeah. When do you like come up with that and then you tell them like I need this cut out, or do you like bring it with you?
Yeah, my producer suggested it because I was like, I'm a really like sarcastic person. Like my love language is banter. So it's like if we can make fun of each other, we're a match made in heaven. So it was kind of just like I wanted something that was like light and funny and like see my personality, and like we could joke about it. And it's something that I thought was memorable. So my producer was like, well, why don't we just do a giant cut out of his head? And I was like, okay, that's weird, but sure.
I love it.
Yeah.
How long did that night actually last?
A very long time.
Yeah.
The sun came up at like the sun usually comes up those nights.
On all the rose ceremony nights?
No, not all of them. Like as it dwindles down, like if
Uh-huh.
it's like 7 people, like then it goes like 20 minutes. But like first night, it's like you're just waiting for it. It feels like forever because he calls your name, and then he calls someone's name and then waits and then calls someone else's name, like, dramatic suspense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That
that's
has
the
to,
hardest part about night one.
yeah, that has to be so crazy, especially when you're just kind of like settling in and meeting everybody.
Exactly.
Okay, so then of course, you're getting to know Grant a little bit, but you're also getting to know all of the other women. How, like, what is it? I can't even imagine because you are all dating the same person, obviously.
Yeah.
Especially as you get like further along into the weeks where there weren't as many people there, because you were on the show for how many weeks was it that you were on it? 5
5 weeks.
weeks, yeah. So it was down
Yeah.
to like what was it, like 7 people?
7 at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what is it? Because I feel like, of course, women like we have so many things to talk about, but like a lot of times we are talking about the guys we're dating. Like, are you talking about him and your date with other people who are also dating him?
So like it's really weird, and it's something that I cannot explain. It's like yes and no, because like, we do have conversations where we do talk about like if I had a one-on-one date the next day, like, we talk about what I did on the date. Some girls chose to disclose a lot, and then some girls didn't. And like for me, I was like, for my mental health, because I started to really like him, obviously, I was like, you know what, if I know they're talking about it, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom, or like I'm gonna
Yeah.
make something to eat. And then when I talked about my date, it was like, yeah, I went bungee jumping, it was a lot of fun, like that was about it. um I think to a point we became very respectful of each other, and like I didn't know. I'm now watching and I'm like, oh wow, like they actually had a really good connection, or like that date went a lot better than she said it did. Like
Yeah.
you're watching it and you're realizing that we were very respectful of each other, which I think is something that like was so mature of the women. And it was like no one rubbed the date in anyone's face. No one was like, well, like he told me this, he told me that. I mean, it did happen for some girls, but like me personally and like my group of friends, we never spoke about what we did.
Yeah, I feel like that's honestly the only way I would be able to stay sane
Oh
on the
my
show
God.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was your first impression of Grant?
I thought he was just so genuine. I think he when he first came out and he spoke to all the girls, he was like, I really am here to find a wife. And I genuinely think that was something that he was there to do. And he just talked about all the time, just like wanting someone that's the mother of his children and like someone that he can grow with, someone that he can bond with. And every time you speak to him, you can tell, like, you know, as the Bachelor, you have to be intentional with your words. And I think he, at times, like, probably was a little bit too I guess validating, and like I said that at Women Tell All as well.
Hmm.
But I think he also was just genuinely trying to get to know all of us, and like in the moment he really felt those ways. But I think that would just be like the only, I guess, downside to it. But I did feel so confident with him when I spoke with him, and I felt just like not like I felt in many other relationships. Like he just validated me so much, which, like, there's good and bad to that.
Yeah, I imagine because it's like, of course, he's getting to know so many different women that he's dating all of them. And so it's like he is
Yeah.
building these connections and you do want to be like validating toward that person. And I think that's also a lot of why what you said makes so much sense that like you shouldn't share like every detail of your date because if you're telling
Yeah.
everyone what he said to you, then it's like, of course, that's going to get in your head.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he said that to me too. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly. And like you
Yeah,
might feel it with everyone, but it's like kind of like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to take a quick break to tell you a little bit more about our sponsor, First Rounds on Me. So, we all know the struggle that comes along with using dating apps waiting for their reply, spending too much time texting, and then never going out in real life. First Rounds on Me changes the game by making the transition from online chat to in person meetup as easy and as smooth as possible. So, there's no endless back and forth. The app only gives you 24 hours to chat, so you'll know right away if there's a spark and if you're going to meet up. And there's no need to plan the perfect date or have endless discussions. First Rounds on Me actually has a built in planner that makes it easy to set things up and really enjoy the moment. And it's all about quality, not quantity. So I don't believe that dating is a numbers game. It's about being intentional. On First Rounds on Me, you only get one match per day, so you can have a focused and intentional approach to dating. No more endless scrolling, just real connections. First Rounds on Me takes the pressure off dating. Head to the link in the show notes and you can get your first month for free with the code Mostly Dating. I can't even imagine. I keep saying, I say this every time I watch the show, but I can't even imagine being the person who ends up with him in the end and then you're watching the show back and you're seeing him with all these other women.
Oh my gosh, when we were in the house, I was like, I'm not, because like I obviously, like, I was there, I was like, well, obviously, like, we're getting engaged, like there's no
Yeah.
question. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna watch the show. And they were like, why wouldn't you watch the show? And I was like, I don't really want to see my fiance like making out with all these girls. I mean, obviously now I've watched it because like I've
Yeah.
moved past it, but at first I was like, I cannot watch this show. I don't want to see anything. Yeah.
That's how I would be too. And it's like, especially this season, they keep like all of the promos are like, this is the hardest decision he's ever made. And I'm like, if he chose me, I would not want to know that this was like a terrible,
Yeah. I'd
hard
be like,
decision.
"Wait, why was it so hard?"
Yeah, exactly. So then,
Yeah.
so that was sort of your first impression of him. What was the moment that you really started to fall for him? Was it your one on one?
It was definitely my one-on-one date. I feel like we had a really great conversation. And we opened up and I think we bonded so much. And there are so many parts, you don't really see, but um there were times when it was like we were just like laughing together and we were driving in the car together and it just felt so normal. And that is like what I thought was the best part of my date was just that it felt like I was on a real first, second, third date with someone that I really liked. And I know, like, the formula of the show is to be like very emotional or, reveal something about yourself that's very, like, very personal. And I think I did it in my own way. It was like, I revealed something about myself, but I also was myself in terms of like, I always add humor to everything. And I try to make light of situations all while revealing things about myself. So even though it didn't come across as like, the typical formula of a bachelor date, I feel so good about it. And I think that we laughed. We had an amazing time. And I was like, this is what I look for. And this is what I would be like in real life.
Yeah, which I think is what the goal should be. It's like
Hmm.
you were vulnerable, but you also just kept your own personality. Like in real life, you probably wouldn't just like be super emotional and not laughing at all. So you want to give like a real portrayal of what you're like.
Yeah, I wanted to have fun. I wanted it to be like a date where I'm like out to dinner with my boyfriend and like we're just like having a good time and like just getting to know each other more.
Yeah, and then of course there was a moment where you said about your mom watching.
Yeah. And it's just like, in the moment, I didn't even think it was like that big of a deal. And I honestly never thought it would be used or at
Yeah,
all. So it's just really funny that it made it to the edit. But like,
everyone loved it. I feel like
yeah,
that was
I
the
had
moment.
no idea that would air, like at all. I was just being honest.
Everyone like I feel like really related because
Oh,
I've
thank
thought
you,
about that before. If
Froze.
I was on that type of show, I'm like the whole time I'd be thinking about my mom watching.
It's weird. It's just like you don't think about those things before the show, and then like you see everyone behind the cameras, and you're like, oh, I can't do this.
Yeah. Like you said, there's so many things that we don't see as
Yeah.
viewers, but it kind of like to me it seemed like almost random that he even asked about that. Like he was asking if
Yeah.
you weren't like super into it. Did you feel on your end like you were holding back a little bit or were you surprised he
No,
asked that?
I didn't feel like that at all. That's why I was like trying to think back and I was like, well, maybe I am just
Yeah.
because it's like in the back of my head, but like I never felt like I was pulling back, but
Yeah. That's
whatever.
so
I think it's
funny.
fine.
And
Yeah.
that date, it's like these one-on-one dates are like 4 dates in one. Like it seems like they're super long.
Yeah, yeah. The bungee jumping was like pretty quick because I don't know if you realize it was pouring raining at the time. So we were supposed to bungee jump and then do a picnic after. And
Oh.
then it was like, yeah, no, I think we're gonna scratch the picnic.
Yeah,
Like,
but they didn't have a backup plan for the bungee jumping. I was gonna bring that up. You were like a champ on that date.
oh my God, thank you. I had the best time, and it wasn't until I watched it back. I got so many DMs and comments that were like people who have like done bungee jumping or like I guess they do this for like an activity. They were
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, like that's not how you do it, or like you're not supposed to do it in rain. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I did it, and I think I'm fine. So
Yeah, you made it.
yeah,
It was
I made it.
hilarious. You guys were like, nothing bad's gonna happen, right? And they're like, probably not. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
she was like not sure, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
She was not giving you much to work with. I was cracking up at that. I was like, I don't know if I would have done it. And you could tell he was nervous too.
So nervous and honestly hilarious. Made for great TV.
Yeah, and those things like bond you together. I feel like there's obviously a reason why The Bachelor does those types of dates.
Yeah, there's psychology on that it like, like high adrenaline like bonds people together. So,
Yeah. Do you
yeah.
know what how they choose like which person gets which date?
I have no idea, but I did say week two, and I said it like in my promos. It was like, do you want an adventure date or like a shopping date? I said I wanted an adventure date
Mm.
because even though I love shopping, I was like, I want to do something that's so crazy and a once in a lifetime experience. And then it was after the basketball date, and I was like talking. I was like, he said that he was afraid of heights. I was like, wait, no, if we ever did a one-on-one date, like a height activity would be my favorite. I was like, I want to like jump out of a plane or something crazy.
Yeah.
And then I got my date card and it was like, let's fall in love. And I was like, okay, like he heard me, I
Yeah, he was
guess.
listening. That's
Yeah.
really funny. As even like I watched last night's episode as we're recording this, the episode that aired last night was the fantasy suites. And I just felt like did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, I felt like it was so like almost like unfair that Zoe gets like this yoga date.
We are like cracking up about it. It's so funny, the edit. It's like she goes, I really am excited for today. Like I can't wait to like talk to Grant. And then the sign goes silence and it's hysterical. And she's such a good sport about things. She's like posting all these memes and it's hilarious. I think it's just like she's a champ at that. It's so funny.
Yeah, because the other two were doing these like adventurous fun dates and she's just doing this
And
silent
she's
yoga
doing
class.
silent yoga. Hysterical.
Yeah. Did you and her become friends on the show?
Zoe and I obviously like we didn't get along the first week or two, just like whatever. But I've come to realize that she's a person that I think she doesn't integrate herself best into groups. I think some people like myself and like a lot of the other girls, like we're easy to like bounce off of each other and like come into a group and like find friends easily. I think she's better one on one and like having someone also like be like, Zoe's slightly misunderstood. I love her. I think she's hysterical. I think she just has like this like very dry humor, which is like my personality.
Yeah.
She's from New York. Well, she lives in New York. So we have like that connection, but I talk to her like almost every day. I think she's hysterical.
Yeah, and I mean, I watched the Women Tell All too, and I love that you sort of like owned the comment that you made about and like said that you brought it
Yeah.
up to her. I feel like it's only natural that things like that will happen in a house where all these women are living kind of competing for the same man. It's like emotions are going to be high.
1,000%. And like a lot of people say stuff about online, like that, my apology like wasn't good enough. And it's like, okay, I apologize to Zoe. It was good enough for
For
her.
her.
I'm like so confused. Like I'm so sorry if I offended you guys, but like
Yeah.
I feel good in my heart that like I have now a friendship with this person. So like at the end of the day, you can't win with everyone. But I'm
Yeah.
like, why is everyone so upset if like
If she's
I'm
okay.
if she's okay? I mean, whatever.
I
But
also feel like that just like, I mean, I don't know. People can correct me, but like I didn't think that was that big of a deal. Like I feel like that's such like a classic little comment when you're just like I guess that tension's high.
yeah, and like I take ownership for it. Like I will fully take it was like a bitchy comment and I apologize like up and down, but like at the end of the day, it's like I think slightly need to let it go because like I am good with her. Like
Right, exactly, and that's what
what
matters. Yeah.
yeah, like at this point my opinion her opinion's the only one that matters to me.
Yeah. And I guess on that note, quickly touching on the Carolina of it all, is
Yeah.
anyone good with her or is she just like was is it tension across the board with her?
Um, Honestly, I can't speak for everyone else. For myself, I think like Women Tell All was a time to talk about it, and I have now moved on from that
Right.
situation. I wish her so like the best. I honestly just like want to move on with the friendships that I made and like be happy. Like I'm going on girls trips with a few of the girls this week, next week, and like I'm just so excited for that part of things and like if there's ever a moment that she wants to also integrate herself, happy to. But
Yeah.
I just like want to move on from all of it at this point.
Yeah, I feel like that's the most mature way to think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, getting back to you and Grant. So you had your
Yeah.
one-on-one date and then there were I think a couple group dates or a group date after that. And then it was leading up to hometowns. That was your last
Mhm.
week on the show. So obviously that's like such a like again, emotions high, like you're getting ready to potentially introduce him to your family. Did you guys talk? You guys talked about it, right? Like about what it would be like if he met your family.
Yeah, we had a talk after the group date in Scotland because there was no rose ceremony before hometowns. Or
Mm-hmm.
there was no cocktail party. Like we
Right.
usually have cocktail party and then we move into the rose ceremony. So we talked after the group date in Scotland, and again, I had received so much validation from him in terms of like like what are we gonna do in your hometown? Like, I'm excited to meet your family. So like going into it, I was like very confident, and like I'm a very anxious person, and like anyone can vouch for this every rose ceremony, I was like, he could be like, I like you so much. I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. And I'd be like, I'm going home. Like, there's just like
Yeah.
no way. Like, he's lying to me. And then that rose ceremony, I was like, yeah, like, it's fine. Like, I can't wait to bring home to my family. I was so confident. So it was like, oh, okay. I genuinely was blindsided. But at the end of the day, he needs to look for his best person and I want to find mine. So if he felt like it wasn't going to move to that next step or he didn't see a future with me, I'm actually happy that he didn't lead me on in that way enough for me to bring him home to my family. So at the end of the day, I'm just happy with the way everything ended.
Yeah, it's almost like yeah, the timing is everything because that would have brought things to such like a whole other level if you brought him to meet your entire family.
Exactly. And I even told him, I was like, you would be the first person I brought home to my family in 6 years.
Yeah.
So I also think he realized like how important it was to me. So I mean, I never got like clarity or closure on it, but just my own closure. I think it's maybe just like he knew how important it was to me but like didn't see a future. So let me go, which I'm happy about.
Yeah, I feel like I remember the last scene of just you two. It was like you were walking down the street, right? After the
Yeah.
group date. Yeah, and you talked
Yeah.
about that a little bit. I feel like I'm trying to remember the two other people that went home because it was you and two other people that went home that week, right? It was Alex and
Alex and
someone else.
Carolina. Yeah.
Okay, yes. And I almost feel like I feel like I saw Carolina coming just because of everything happening there, but I feel like for you and Alex, those were both kind of like shockers.
Yeah, I don't really know how Alex was feeling that day. And we haven't really spoken about like, if she
Yeah.
felt blindsided or not. But I think any of us really went into it and was like, this is someone that I want to bring home to my family. So again, I'm not sure how she was feeling, but I think a lot of us probably felt blindsided that day.
Yeah. I also imagine it's difficult when you get, like, for her, it was like she got the first date, and then it's kind of like then you don't have one on one time after that.
Yeah, they say it's like kind of a blessing and a curse because it's like you have to like, all of us like we went up and gradually got to like get to know him. It's like when you're up, you have to stay up and you have to make sure there's like no decline because then as weeks go on, he's starting to form relationships with other people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. So then
Yeah.
after you went home, Do you like when when did you like hear kind of like what happened with the rest of the people? Like were you getting updates from people as other people got sent home?
Yeah, like where there was like a group chat and people would get like
Uh-huh.
added into it, and then yeah, you like as you become friends with people, like we all talk. Um, but yeah, it was like we all kind of like as we got home like started to just like bond together and like text and like really lean on each other. Like I think even to this day we all still like FaceTime. Like Dean and I FaceTime until like 4 a.m. last week, just like talking. So like
Yeah.
we've all just really leaned on each other throughout this entire process.
Yeah, I love that you come out of it with like a good solid group of friends who have been through the same thing because nobody else
Yeah.
knows what that's like, I'm sure.
No, you gain the best support system. And I think at this point, we're just like all bonded. And it's like, it's at a really nice place where we don't even talk about the show anymore. Like, we're talking about our real lives and like, who we're dating or like who we're talking to or like what's going on with our family. Like, and I love that. It's like we no longer really talk about the show anymore.
Yeah, I love that too. When you
Yeah.
left though, does it feel like it genuinely feels like you're going through a breakup, right?
Yeah, it does for a while because it's like I can't explain it other than like your bubble is popped because like you're so
Mm,
secluded, you're not speaking to your family, you're not speaking to your friends, and then you just go to the airport, you get your phone, and you're like, oh, okay, like it's back to my regular life, and then you can't really talk to your friends about it that much, and like it's weird. It's like a weird limbo. It's like you feel like you're mourning this breakup, but like he and then he gets engaged, so
yeah.
it's like, or he like what I'm saying, and so it's like when usually you have a breakup, it's like the both of you are single for a little bit, but he's just continuing his relationship. So it's like
Yeah.
it's a weird thing.
Yeah, it's a different type of breakup that people who have never been on The Bachelor won't ever experience.
Ever understand, yeah.
Yeah. And so obviously you can't share anything, but do you know how it ends?
I don't know.
I had to ask.
I have no
Um,
idea. But there's 6 more days and we'll find out.
yeah, that's so crazy. And so
Yeah.
you went home on week 5, like viewership wise, but how long were you
Yeah.
actually there?
A month.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say about maybe like 28 days.
Yeah. And how
Yeah.
much do you have like downtime throughout, like even like when you're in Spain? Like, did you guys have a lot of time that you were not filming?
Not really. Like, I mean, it depends. Like 4 days in Bachelor World is a week, so it's like
Okay.
you'll have, um, it'll be like a one-on-one, and then a group date, and then another one-on-one, and then a rose ceremony, and then like we'll get like a layover day where it's like before we went to Scotland, we all went shopping one day. So that was like a day, like a break day, but like we're
Uh-huh.
filming pretty much every single day, or like, doing girl chats or, something like that where we're like probably on camera, off camera.
Yeah. And when did you actually wrap filming? Like what time of year was that?
Um, October?
Oh wow. Okay, so it was
Um,
like not
Yeah.
that long ago. That's not super
Yeah.
long
So it was like
ago.
pretty recent.
Okay. So then you came directly back to the city?
I actually spent 2 weeks in Connecticut with my mom.
Okay.
Just like I took a week off from work. So I just didn't work for a bit and I just like sat home and like watched I like honestly caught up on every show that I
Yeah.
missed. I watched Tell Me Lies because that came out when I was away.
Yeah.
And then I watched that for like a full week and then I like caught up on like Housewives and stuff like that and then I went back to work.
Yeah. Oh my God, I already
So,
forgot about Tell Me Lies. Such a good show.
such a good show.
Okay, so then you get back to the city, and when did you or have you like felt ready to date since then?
Um, like I said, I just like have not been a good dater because
Hmm.
it's like I'm not on the apps and then like I don't go out that much. So I'm like, how am I gonna find someone? I'm just like waiting for someone to slide into my DMs at this
Yeah, which
point.
probably will happen at this point.
I'm hoping. It's like everyone knows I'm off the show now, so like please, please message me.
Yeah, I
They're
feel like that
open.
show is basically like the ultimate dating app profile. It just shows everyone everything they
Exactly.
need to know about
Like
you.
my message requests are so open. Please, please.
Yeah, slide in.
Yeah, please.
Is there anything that the show or your experience on the show taught you about maybe something that you thought you wanted? I know we talked a little bit about like your type and everything, but was there anything that the show directly taught you about what you're looking for?
I think it taught me to just wait for someone that I think I'm actually interested in and someone that I like feel comfortable opening up to. Like I had never been a person that just like shared my feelings. I was like very surface level and it was just because I was really afraid to get hurt. And I think the show taught me that like you can open up and rejection isn't something that's like the end all be all. It's not the worst thing on the planet. Like I had a breakup on national television. Like there is nothing else that could happen that's more quote unquote embarrassing. So it's like, and I shared my story with a lot of people, and I got in so many DMs that are like, I grew up with a single mom, and like I felt this way, and that also is so comforting. So it's like it just showed me that I can just like open up to someone, and if I get hurt, it's fine. At least I put myself out there as much as I could.
Yeah, I think that's such a good mindset to have. And I do think that it helped so many people, even just to hear you share your story and even what you're saying now. To like, yeah, rejection happened for you on TV. And it's like you get past it. It's like you can't like
Yeah,
hold yourself back from putting yourself out there.
exactly.
What advice would you have for somebody if they were to go into an experience like this?
Um, I would say be yourself because anyone else is exhausting. Like it is like it's impossible to be something that you're not because like you're just on camera all the time. And then I would also just say like just put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to like I hate to say it, like, I keep saying it, but like be yourself because like there is someone that will relate to you, and like there are gonna be people who love you. There are gonna be people who hate you, but you will find like the people that support you. It's like I'm not a person that everyone is obsessed with me, and I'm also so okay with that because the people who do love me and who have sent me such kind messages, like they are the people who I relate to, or like those are the people who I know are always going to love me because like I've realized like people change their mind on a dime. Like one week they'll love you, the next week they won't. But there are some people who are like, I don't really care. Like I've always admired you since day one. Like those are and it's because I think I was myself. So I would just say like just don't be anyone else but yourself.
Yeah, I feel like that's the clip right there. That's like if everyone can just hear that and actually put into practice. And it can be hard sometimes. Like when I was dating, I would find myself like just putting on an act naturally sometimes when I'm out on a date because it's
Yeah,
like, oh, I kind of can feel out the type of person they want me to be. So then I start acting like that. But that's like the best way to attract the wrong people. It's like you're only going to attract the
exactly.
right people if you're being yourself.
Exactly, because like I've noticed if you do one thing that like people don't like, they instantly hate you. And it's like I've had people who are like, "No, like yeah, like I think that's funny," or like I think you're being real. So it's like you just got to be yourself the entire time.
Yeah. And then whatever doesn't work out, you know it wasn't supposed to because you were yourself and that just didn't work. It's like,
Exactly.
yeah, it's like it's so simple, but we can complicate it so easily.
I know.
Okay, I want to do
Yeah.
some listener questions. I weaved in all the
Yeah.
questions that people asked, like about you and everything, but I just always like to wrap up with some advice type questions and get different perspectives on what people are
Okay, I love that.
asking. So let me pull this up. Okay, this is a pretty classic one. How long do you speak to a guy if they don't ask you out? It's been 2 to 3 days. Should I wait a week, 2 weeks, or longer? I'm assuming on an app.
Yeah, I was gonna say like she just met this guy. They've been talking for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
I would say if he hasn't asked you out, I'm in this mindset now. Just ask him out. Just say like, "Hey, what are you up to this weekend? Like, do you want to get drinks? Go for it." If he gives you a weird answer, that's your answer. Just don't go, but take a shot. Ask him out.
Yeah, why not? I totally
Yeah.
agree. After how many dates do you think it's appropriate to bring up exclusivity?
Um, I wouldn't say after a few days. I would probably say like maybe like a month. I usually talk about it about like a month in, especially if like you've been like going out every weekend. So like yeah, like 4 dates. I would say like, what are your intentions? But also I'm the kind of person these days, like I lean in the first date. I'm like, listen, I'm like really looking for something serious. I don't care if people think it's crazy because like you can't scare off someone that's meant for you.
Mm,
So I'm very much of like, you know what? Like I'm in a place where I'm looking for something serious. Like what are your intentions? Are you like looking to have fun? I'm not saying like the first date ask him to be your boyfriend, but
yeah.
like set the intentions early.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that you said that because I think it can be so scary to say like I'm looking for something serious, but I
Yeah.
don't get why. It's like you're on a date with this person. It's not this crazy thing that you're admitting that you want a
No.
relationship.
No. So just I would say probably like first date and then like as you see things go on, then probably bring it up like a month, maybe 5 weeks later.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's see. How do you suggest I approach milestone conversations with my boyfriend? I have a hard time figuring out what's best for both of us, and I want to know what's next in our relationship. This is kind of similar, but has this ever happened to you in a relationship where it's like you want to move things to the next level and like you kind of have to bring that up with them?
Yeah, when I was dating that guy for a year, I wanted to move to New York and he lived in Connecticut. So I was like kind of like talking about like I'm moving to New York, like do you want to move there or something like that. I think bringing up milestones, you can kind of trick them a little bit. Like I would always be like I would probably be like if it's like moving in with someone, it's like, "Hey, my lease is, up in 2 or 3 months. Like what are you thinking? Like do you see yourself like, staying in the city? Do you want to move in together? Like where are you at?" Like you kind of have to like trick them a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you have to, yeah, like use the circumstances. Like if your lease is ending, bring that up. Like if
Yeah,
you were
even if your
trying,
lease is up in 7 months, there's three
right.
months. Like
Yeah. It's like if you want to get engaged, like bring up someone else who got engaged. There's like always a
yeah,
different way to bring things up.
1,000%.
Yeah. Okay. My boyfriend hasn't said I love you. It's been 8 months of dating. Do you think this is a red flag? Should I say it first?
I think it goes back to the first one. Take a shot. I think if you feel a certain way, it doesn't hurt to say it first. Like, I am just like now not in the mindset of like having a guy lead. Like, if I feel a certain way, I'll be like, you know what? Like, I really am starting to fall in love with you. Like, maybe you start it there. You don't have to say I'm in love with you, but like, you can do the precursor. Like, I'm really starting to fall in love with you. I see a future with you and see what he says.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up. It's funny because kind of tying back to the show, I feel like you see that happening on shows like The Bachelor and other dating shows where people say like I'm starting to fall in love or kind of like drop those hints of how they're feeling. And I never
Yeah,
really see people giving that advice in real
in
life,
real
but like
life.
it's okay to kind of talk about how you're feeling even if you're not like quite ready to say I love you or say exactly what you want the next step to be.
Exactly.
This one, okay. My ex came back 8 months later and says he's been thinking of me. He was just scared before. He's 35, I'm 30. Do you think I should give him another chance or no? I feel like we need so
I
many more details.
Yeah, I need more details. Yeah, like how did it end? Like, is he a good person? Like, I need a little bit more background on him. My thing is like an ex, no. Especially it's been 8 months. It's like now he's coming to that realization. I think that's insane. Based off of the limited information, I say no, my love. Move
Yeah,
on.
I agree. I mean, of course, there could be other circumstances we don't know about, but it's like 8 months, depending on how long the relationship was and how hard the breakup was, 8 months could be like right when you're starting to actually feel okay. And then you're going to go down that road.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, have you ever seen The Hills?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, there's this scene where Lauren Conrad, she's like, it's like guys have this radar. The second that they realize that you've moved on, that's when they'll text you. And I've
Yeah.
always lived that. I watched that show when I was like 10 years old. I definitely had no business watching it, but I remembered it from that day and I had no
Yeah.
idea what that meant, but now I do.
I always felt that way too. It's like I could have like a year where I have literally zero dating prospects. And then this first second I start talking to someone new, it's like suddenly there's four people that are out there. And I'm like, why does this all happen at the same time?
They know.
They can tell. It's like an
Yeah.
energy.
Like,
Okay,
yeah.
we'll do a couple more.
Yeah.
First day chatting, the first day that we were chatting, he asked me if I was on birth control. Is this a red flag?
No, I think it's a weird question.
It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a weird question.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
All right, let me try find a good one for the last question. When you were, this is just came into my head, but when you did break up with that ex from that relationship you had, was it like a clean break or did you have like on and off?
Oh no, he broke up with me.
And then it
Yeah.
just was done.
Yeah, he said that he wanted to break up indefinitely. And then,
Indefinitely. What a
indefinitely.
weird thing to say.
Yeah, because he did say like let's take a break and I was like for how long and he said indefinitely and I was just like that doesn't sound like we're ever getting back
Yeah, seems like
together.
that means for good.
Yeah, and then we've never gotten back together obviously, but
Yeah, which
like
is for the best, of course.
yeah.
Okay, this is, I feel like, a good, just general one that a lot of people will relate to. So, how
Mhm.
do you stop romanticizing over something that could have been? I guess like a situationship or someone you never got to really try with.
Yeah, I mean, it is really hard to not, but I think it's like it just was not meant to be, is what I will say. It's like we all do this thing. It's like we all think of we idolize this person. So we're like, he would have been so great, like in this situation, we would have had so much fun, we would have done this. And like I think what I've also done is in changing my mindset, I've stopped like creating a future with someone that I've never met. Like I used to go on a date with a guy and I'd be like, I cannot wait until we pick out our wedding venue.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so excited. And now it's just like, I kind of go with the flow. I'm like, he's a nice guy, like from what I know, but I don't really know that much about him. I think it's like, I don't know how his family life is. Like, I don't know
Mm.
what his future, what he wants in his future, how many kids he wants. Like, we need to stop from the beginning creating a future with people that we don't know. So I would say, just like, don't go in with, like, go in with good intentions, but don't go in with extreme expectations.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. It's like the whole future tripping thing can be so easy to go down that
Yeah.
road. But it's also like if you do end up with that person, those like early stages are actually really fun, like getting to know each other. Like you don't need to rush
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just like continue to just like casually date, like go on a date with him, have a glass of wine, like
Yeah.
giggle, like, do that. And then like you get to know that person or for the good or the bad.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay,
Yeah.
this was so fun. I feel like I could have talked to you for another
Okay.
hour.
I
Thank you so much for
know.
coming on. Can you tell
Thank
everybody
you.
listening where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram, Sarafiena Watkins. Very straightforward. Fiena. My name is spelled like 15 different ways online, but it's Sarafiena.
Okay,
So,
amazing. I'm going to put that in the show notes too, but thank you again.
yay. Thank you so much. This is so much fun.